March 1997. A man leaves a party in Los Angeles. He's 24 years old. His debut album is certified quadruple platinum. His follow-up album is about to be released. He's the king of East Coast hip-hop, a voice of his generation, a storyteller whose words paint pictures so vivid you can see them. Critics call him the greatest rapper alive. His name is the Notorious B.I.G., and in less than 2 weeks, he'll be gone. But before the tragedy, before the legend, before the world knew his name, he was Christopher Wallace. A kid from Brooklyn with a gift for words and limited options for using it. This is the story of how he rose, how he became royalty, and how he changed hip-hop in less than 3 years. Christopher George Latour Wallace was born on May 21, 1972, in Brooklyn, New York, specifically Bedford-Stuyvesant, Bed-Stuy, a neighborhood with deep cultural history, but also deep economic struggle. Christopher's parents were both from Jamaica. His father left when Christopher was young. His mother, Valletta Wallace, worked 2 jobs to support them. There was love in their home, but there was also pressure, financial pressure that Christopher felt even as a child. Bed-Stuy in the 70s and 80s was complicated. The crack epidemic hit hard. For young men like Christopher, options were limited: school, streets, or something in between. Christopher was smart. He attended a Catholic school his mother worked hard to afford, but the streets were calling. Not because he was drawn to violence, but because that's where opportunities seemed to exist for kids who looked like him. By his early teens, he was tall, over 6 feet, and his deep voice made him seem older. His friends started calling him Big, eventually Biggie. He started hustling on the corners, small time, but enough to help his mother with bills. But Christopher had another talent, one that would save his life, though he didn't know it yet. He could rap, not just okay, exceptionally. His flow was smooth, his voice was deep and commanding, and his lyrics were stories. In 1991, Christopher dropped out of high school. Within months, he was arrested on drug charges and spent 9 months in jail. And during those 9 months, something crystallized. This wasn't a path. This was a trap. When he got out, he decided to take music seriously, not as a hobby, as a way out. In 1992, Christopher recorded a demo tape. It eventually reached the editor of the Source magazine, who featured Christopher in their unsigned hype column. That feature caught the attention of Sean Puffy Combs, who was working at Uptown Records. Puffy heard the demo and immediately recognized something special: the voice, the storytelling, the presence. This was a generational talent. Puffy had just started his own label, Bad Boy Records, and Christopher became one of the first artists he signed. Christopher adopted the name the Notorious B.I.G., though fans still called him Biggie. They started working on an album immediately. Biggie spent months crafting songs, constructing narratives. He wrote about his life, his struggles, his dreams of success. What made him different was specificity. He gave details, names, locations, feelings. You could picture every scene he described. His flow was impeccable, and his voice, that deep, commanding baritone, made every word land with authority. In September 1994, Bad Boy Records released Ready to Die, Biggie's debut album, and it changed everything. Ready to Die wasn't just an album, it was a statement. A narrative arc that took listeners through Biggie's entire life from birth to the present. The album was dark, honest, unflinching. Biggie rapped about suicidal thoughts, depression, street violence, and the psychological weight of poverty. But he also rapped about ambition, humor, and the small joys that kept him going. Singles like Juicy became anthems, the sound of someone who'd made it and couldn't quite believe it. Big Papa was smoother, a party track that became a massive hit and crossed over beyond hip-hop audiences. But the deeper album cuts were where his genius truly showed. Everyday struggle detailed the mental toll of street life. Suicidal thoughts was raw, vulnerable, disturbing, and brilliant. Critics loved it. The album was certified gold, then platinum, then double, triple, and quadruple platinum. More than sales, the album earned respect. Hip-hop heads recognized it as a classic, one of the greatest debut albums in rap history. And he was only 22 years old. Biggie went from unknown to king of New York in less than a year. He was the face of East Coast hip-hop when West Coast rap was dominating. Biggie represented a counter-narrative, proof that New York still had something to say. He was living a life he'd rapped about on Juicy, but success brought new pressures and new conflicts. By 1995, Biggie was one of the biggest stars in hip-hop, but the industry was becoming divided. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry, fueled by media, was intensifying. Biggie had been friends with Tupac Shakur, but after Tupac was shot in New York in 1994, their relationship deteriorated. Tupac believed people on the East Coast, possibly connected to Bad Boy, were involved. Biggie denied it. But the friendship ended, and what replaced it was public tension. East Coast versus West Coast. Bad Boy versus Death Row. Biggie versus Tupac. Through all of this, Biggie kept working on his second album, Life After Death. But in September 1996, something happened that shook the entire hip-hop community. Tupac Shakur was killed in Las Vegas. The murder devastated everyone, including Biggie. He knew things had gone too far. He gave interviews trying to de-escalate tensions, but the environment was already toxic. In March 1997, Biggie traveled to Los Angeles to promote his new album. On March 9th, after leaving a party, his car was stopped at a red light. Another vehicle pulled up. Shots were fired. Biggie was rushed to the hospital, but was pronounced dead, the King of New York, dead at 24. 2 weeks after his death, Life After Death was released. The timing was tragically ironic. The album debuted at number 1 and went on to sell over 10 million copies. It was certified diamond, one of the best-selling hip-hop albums of all time. Songs like Hypnotize and Mo Money, Mo Problems became massive hits. The album showed Biggie's range, but the world would never know what else he could have done. His influence on hip-hop is immeasurable. His storytelling set a new standard. He showed that rap could be cinematic. Artists from Jay-Z to Kendrick Lamar cite him as a primary influence. His flow patterns, his cadence, his breath control, all of it became textbook material for aspiring rappers. His voice became iconic. He proved that East Coast hip-hop could compete commercially. In 2020, Ready to Die was selected by the Library of Congress for preservation in the National Recording Registry. A Kid from Brooklyn, a debut album, recognized as part of American cultural heritage. That's legacy. Christopher Wallace lived 24 years. He had a professional rap career for less than 3. In that short window, he became one of the most influential artists in hip-hop history. How? First, raw talent. You can't teach what he had naturally. Second, preparation. He had been rapping for years on street corners. By the time he got his opportunity, he was ready. Third, specificity. He gave real details from his actual life. That connection is what turns casual fans into devoted ones. Fourth, timing. He emerged at the perfect moment when East Coast hip-hop needed a voice. Fifth, work ethic. Even after Ready to Die became a success, he kept working. And finally, authenticity. He wasn't performing a character. He was being himself. The tragedy is that we only got a glimpse of what he could have become. But what we do know is this. In the brief time he was here, he left something permanent. He showed that where you come from doesn't determine where you can go. That talent and preparation, when they meet opportunity, can create something extraordinary. From Brooklyn to the world. From Christopher Wallace to the Notorious B.I.G., from unknown to immortal. The story lives on,